Hello everyone, welcome to FarreeMakes. Believe it or not, these were made from bananas. I'm going to show you how to make them right now. So first we're going to start off with 2 very ripe bananas. It doesn't have to be 2, it's just whatever amount of bananas you have. In this case, I had 2 very ripe bananas. So we're just going to put this in a bowl. And then we're going to mash them. So just make it as fine of a mix as possible. It's okay if there are little lumps, it gives it a little bit more texture, but you would like your mash to be fairly smooth. Okay. So this is the mash here. Now we're going to flavor it. So depending on how sweet your bananas are, you can add sugar to taste. So these weren't so sweet, so I'm just adding a little bit of sugar and then a little drizzle on top because I know I'm going to be adding flour, so that's just going to keep the batter sweet while I add flour later. So I'm going to mix that in. And then we're adding spice mix. And this is basically just a mix of ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, and ground clove. So again, I season to taste. Let's put a little sprinkle in there. I see how it distributes and it looks good, but I'm just gonna add a little bit more because I know when the flour gets incorporated, it's gonna mute out some of those flavors. So I just add a little bit to compensate for that. Okay, stir that in and that's it. Now I'm going to add some butter. So just some little shavings of butter. And this is just something that my mother's always done. But I believe it also keeps the mix light and airy when it fries up. You have the butter that melts and creates little air pockets. And that's what keeps the batter light. I'm also going to add vanilla extract because vanilla is everything when you're cooking any type of sweet dish. So stir that in. And I know it's not looking great. It's, a little concerning, but trust the process. I'm going to add 1 large egg and some salt. Salt enhances the sweet, so it works. And then I'm adding some milk. So this is actually some milk soak that I created when I was making tres leches. So it's essentially just milk and spices. So I added that in, but any type of milk at this stage will do. So we mix that in and now we can see it's starting to come together as a nice batter mixture. So those are all of the ingredients so far. And then now we're going to start getting our oil to temp. So I just grab my frying pan and there's nothing in it right now. I'm just turning it on the heat so that it can start getting hot. So while that's coming up to temp, this is the time where I add my flour. So this is just regular all-purpose flour. And you eyeball this. I never really have exact measurements, but I always start off with a cup based off of how the batter looks. And then I can either thin it out with some more milk or stretch it out with a little bit more flour. And then I'm adding a ½ teaspoon of baking powder to that 1 cup of flour that I've done. It adds a nice rise to it between the egg, the butter, and the baking powder. It's going to be a nice fluffy fritter. So I'm just stirring this in, and it looks like I'm stirring really fast, but this is just sped up. You want to take your time with this. You don't want to overmix it because you don't want it to be hard and tough. So just stir until the flour is incorporated. And in this case, I got it perfect, which is very rare, but I got my flour to wet mix ratio on point. So now I'm just going to add some vegetable oil to that hot frying pan that I had on the stove. You let that oil come up to temp. It won't be long because your frying pan was preheating, so it should be fairly quick. And I'm just adjusting my temperature up to a medium heat. Okay, so it's starting to look good. And now we're going to spoon this batter into the oil. So I find a fairly large spoon because I like them a little bit bigger. You can definitely use a smaller spoon, like a teaspoon, and make them small and cute. But this is a quick snack for my husband and myself, so we didn't have time to be frying up 50,000 fritters. I wanted to get enough for the two of us and not stand there all day frying. So I'm just spooning them in. And you want, as soon as the batter touches the oil, that it creates like this nice little ring of bubbles around it. As you can see here, it's not spreading too much. And then kind of like with pancakes, the edges start to kind of dry out a little bit. And that's how you know when it's getting close to flip. So you want it to be nice and golden brown as you flip them over. And this is the final product here. So these 2 bananas made about 20 fritters, which is enough for me and my husband, so I'm happy. When you break it open, you can see it's nice, light, and fluffy. Oh, it's so good. And it's like nice and crunchy on the exterior, and then the inside still has that nice fluffiness. And it's just a great way to utilize older bananas that, you know, you may want it to turn into a bread, but you want to do something different? Definitely try this.